Views expressed on this program are not necessarily the views of Lexington Community Radio or its board of directors. The views expressed are solely those of the programmers.
You are listening to Off the Cuff. Now, here's your host, Adam Banks.
Welcome, everybody, to Off the Cuff. I am Adam Banks, coming at you live from Lexington, Kentucky. Thank you for listening to the show, and thank you for tuning in to WLXU 93.9 FM. In addition to listening on the radio, you can check out our Facebook live stream at Off the Cuff with Adam Banks, or you could stream the show live from the station website at MediaLex.us to listen to us from anywhere in the entire world. I am broadcasting from the WLXU studios here at MediaLex on North Limestone. It is Thursday, June the 4th, 2026, 4:01 to be exact. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to another broadcast of Off the Cuff. For the last several episodes, I have been testing your knowledge. I have told everyone how important our education is, of what we learn when we're young, 3rd, 4th, 5th grade. Those are the building blocks of our education. And for the last couple of weeks, I have played a game show on this first segment of the show where I have tested your knowledge. And I have pegged the 3rd grade as being the first grade where we really start learning knowledge that we carry with us throughout our entire life. So we started with, are you smarter than a 3rd grader? And then eventually, are you smarter than a 4th grader, etc., etc. And now, folks, we are on the final grade, the final segment of this, because I am testing grade school knowledge, and we are now in the 8th grade. So I am back with you to do this segment just one more time to test, are you smarter than an 8th grader? Now think about it, folks. 8th grade is at the point where you are at the end of your grade school education. You are getting ready to go into high school. So really, everything, the building blocks, ends in 8th grade. You stop learning really new stuff. You just kind of build on the things that you learn from the 8th grade. I don't want to say you stop learning new stuff, but really the foundation stops in 8th grade. So it is still very important to know 8th grade knowledge. But can you remember the things that you were taught in the 8th grade? Let's find out. We're going to play along at home. I'm going to ask you a question. And then when you are driving down the road, listening at home, or wherever you are, you just answer out loud. Only take a few seconds because I will give you the answer. So don't take too long. So question 1, let's go. What document begins with the words, "We the people"? Folks, you should have learned this in 8th grade. It's the United States Constitution. What war was fought between the North and South regions of the United States? That would be the American Civil War, one of the most fascinating wars in history. Who wrote the Declaration of Independence? That would be Thomas Jefferson. Hopefully, you've got a 100% so far. Basic knowledge, folks. Basic knowledge. All right, let's continue here. What ancient civilization built the pyramids at Giza? The correct answer would be the ancient Egyptians. Question 5, what wall divided East and West Berlin during the Cold War? That would be the Berlin Wall. Question 6, who was the queen of ancient Egypt, associated with Julius Caesar and Mark Antony? Cleopatra would be the correct answer there. 8th grade, folks. Are you smarter than an 8th grader? You see all these little cocky 13-year-olds walking around. You think they're so dumb. This is the stuff that they know. Do you know it? Question 7, in what country did the Renaissance begin? 8th graders know this. Do you? In what country did the Renaissance begin? Italy would be the correct answer. Which U.S. state is known as the Aloha State? That would be the 50th state added to the Union, the state of Hawaii. Mount Everest is located in which mountain range? 8th grade. Right here. Couple more days till a lot of you graduate. It's located in the Himalayas. All right, next question. What country is directly north of the United States? Canada would be the correct answer. I used to think when I was little that Alaska was at the bottom of the country because it was located on the bottom of a map. So you really, I took maps literal. Not that I thought the earth was flat or anything, but I did think Alaska was located at the bottom of everything. Okay, next question. Who wrote The Adventures of Tom Sawyer? Mark Twain. What is the setting of a story? What is the setting of a story? We're in English here. I'm sure you took drama. The setting of a story is the time and place where the story occurs. Question 13. What do you call a struggle between opposing forces in a story? That would be conflict. What's a movie or a story without conflict? What punctuation mark is used to show possession? That would be an apostrophe. How are we doing so far, folks? 8th grade level questions. Are you smarter than an 8th grader? Next question. What is a biography? Well, it's a book or an account about a person's life written by someone else. Because we know an autobiography is a story about your life written by you yourself. But a biography is when somebody else writes it about you. Next question. How many stars are on the U.S. flag? I hope you say 50 because we do have 50 states and the stars represent the 50 states. This is an easy one. What is the capital of the United States? The capital of the United States would be Washington, D.C., ladies and gentlemen. Washington, D.C. What is the highest court in the United States? The highest court that we have is the Supreme Court of the United States. What does the acronym NASA stand for? I'm sure you've heard of the company NASA, but what does NASA stand for? National Aeronautics and Space Administration. What amendment to the U.S. Constitution abolished slavery? Folks, I know you know this. 13-year-olds know this. This is 8th grade level questions. If you were to go on a game show where they only ask you 8th grade level questions, would you be able to do it? Well, this would be a good indicator. What amendment to the U.S. Constitution abolished slavery? That would be the 13th Amendment. Which ocean lies between North America and Europe? The Atlantic Ocean. A lot of things happened in that ocean. What amendment to the U.S. Constitution abolished slavery? I already said that. 13th Amendment. Final question. What is the smallest bone in the human body? That would be the stapes. That is located in the ear. That is the smallest bone in the body. And that, folks, is are you smarter than an 8th grader? Are you smarter than a grade schooler is really what I want to ask you at the end of all of this. This was really a way for you at home to test your knowledge. Education is so important. Folks, maybe one day in the future, we'll get into some high school questions because, hey, we learned some stuff there too. But folks, we have a great show ahead of you today. You are listening to Off the Cuff with Adam Banks. Stick with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody, to Off the Cuff. Adam Banks here with you. Graduation season is in full swing. It is June the 4th. A lot of colleges have already graduated. They usually graduate early May, but that doesn't mean that graduation season is over. Oh no, high schools grade schools, middle schools, all kinds of schools still have graduation. Sometimes graduation is all year long because college is on a quarterly system, but this is graduation season, they call it. So many people are graduating. The time to feel inspired, the time of promise, the time of new hope. That's how a lot of graduates are feeling. I don't know about you, but I was feeling the opposite. Instead of inspired, I was scared. I was broke, no job, no money. That was a scary time in life. I see these pictures of these college graduates getting ready to go out to the real world, and I'm just sitting here thinking, you have no idea. The party is over. But folks, graduation season is in, which means a lot of graduation speeches will be given at the graduation ceremony. Usually the valedictorian is who gives the graduation speech. Sometimes, mostly at universities, there's a guest speaker that they fly in to speak at the graduation. Maybe someone who is famous, maybe someone successful in the industry. But nonetheless, you hear some type of a speech. And that's what I want to talk about on today's show in light of graduation season. We've talked about some of the best graduation speeches before. And also on this show, I've given my own graduation speeches to high school students, college students, grade school students. But graduation season is filled with speeches meant to inspire the next generation, but some of the most memorable commencement moments didn't happen on a real stage, folks. They happened on television. Over the years, television writers have used graduation ceremonies to capture the excitement, the uncertainty, and the hope that comes with turning the page to a new chapter. So think back about some of the sitcoms you used to watch, to those dramas that you watched on television. Those speeches have resonated with audience long after those credits have rolled. So today what I want to do is I want to talk about some of the best graduation speeches ever delivered on television. These moments that I have chosen, they made us laugh, they made us cry, and they reminded us that growing up is a journey. So we've heard graduation speeches before, some that are really good in person. For the most part, they're boring, let's be honest. But the thing about television, what's great about TV is they really don't leave room for a boring speech. So most of their speeches are pretty daggone good. So I have come up with a list of some of the best graduation speeches ever given on television. And we're going to start with Saved by the Bell. Can you get any more high school than Saved by the Bell when Zach Morris stands up to give his graduation speech? And what I like about this speech is Zach wasn't the valedictorian, obviously. He was the troublemaker. He slid by with C's. And we all know C's get degrees, so Zach was there to get his degree, but his friend Screech was the valedictorian who is afraid of public speaking, and he got Zach to do the speech for him. And Zach, of course, being the star of the show and the way TV has it, gave a graduation speech. And it's pure nostalgia. Instead of focusing on grades or achievements, he talks about friendship and his shared experiences that he had and growing up together. It's the kind of graduation message that reminds people their classmates are often the most important part of the journey, I would say. So let's take a listen back when Zach Morris gave the graduation speech at Bayside High back in 1993.
You know what's funny? I thought the last day of high school would be the happiest day of my life. Until I realized what I'd be leaving. My friends. See, that's what Bayside means to me. Not just girlfriends, though I'll miss all 86 of you. No. I'm talking about those people who are always there when you need them. Like when your parents ground you for borrowing the car and not bringing all of it home. Or a girl you die to go out with tells you to drop dead. Or better yet, when you're a credit short of graduating and your friends stand up for you, no matter how ridiculous you make them look. You know, I'm lucky. I have the greatest friends. You know, I may even let Screech do my homework in college.
And there was a spinoff. There was a spinoff there of Saved by the Bell where they went to college and Screech did do his homework in college. But I loved it. That was the last episode of Saved by the Bell, and it was their graduation episode. So this was really Mark Paul Gosselaar, who played Zach Morris, saying goodbye to his friends. So the emotion in that speech was real. Okay, next up on my list is one of the best graduation speeches ever given on television. It comes from the TV show The O.C., and this was back in 2006. They were the class of 2006. This was special to me because I, too, was the class of 2006 back in high school. So I went to high school with these people in the show. Didn't physically go to high school with them, but during the same time. And Taylor Townsend is the valedictorian. She's giving the speech, and she represents the high-achieving student who discovers that life isn't about checking every box. Her graduation perspective is about embracing uncertainty and finding your own path instead of chasing perfection. And I love it because it's got Imogene Heap playing in the background, which is a great song. And what's haunting about this episode, though, this is the season finale of season 3. One of the main characters dies in a car accident later that night, graduation night. And this is their last moment together. But they have this scene where all of them are getting their diplomas while the speech is being given in the background. Take a listen.
They say there's no one older than a high school senior, but no one younger than a college freshman. Well, I guess now we'll find out as we begin our journey.
Daniel Aaron, Ryan Atwood,
But as Cicero said, Amicitiae nostrae memoriam spero sempiternam. I hope the memory of our friendship will be everlasting.
Seth Cohen, Marissa Cooper,
And just because we're leaving Harvard does not mean that our learning is done. Tantu discendemus, quamdu vivas. We must learn as long as we may live.
Alex Pizzavas, Summer Roberts.
But if I could leave you all with one final word of advice, legitimis nil carborundum. Don't let the bastards get you down.
A great scene, a great moment. Like I said, one of the main characters, my favorite character from the show was the one that died in the car accident, brutally got knocked off the road by a crazy dude during a road rage incident, flipped her car over, and she died in her boyfriend's arms, her ex-boyfriend. Great show. One of the best shows of the early 2000s, honestly. But a great graduation speech. Couldn't do a graduation speech that wasn't in the class of 2006. Okay, coming up next, we're talking about the best graduation speeches from television. This one is from a sitcom. This is from The Big Bang Theory, and this is an episode entitled The Graduation Transmission. Back in 2015 is when it aired, and this is Leonard giving a graduation speech to a high school class, and he is a guest speaker. We all know that Leonard in the show is a very successful doctor. He's got his PhD and very successful. And I like this speech that he's given to the high school class because it's real, it's raw, it's surprisingly relatable. It's coming from a show about geniuses. The speech isn't about intelligence at all, and that's what makes it great. It's about persistence, and it's learning about making mistakes, and it's learning how to grow, and learning that high school isn't great for everybody. Sometimes people have a bad experience, like Leonard did, and he talks about it in his speech. Take a listen.
I wrote an entire speech to say how high school prepares you and what a wonderful place it is, but I hated it. Maybe high school's great if you look like this. But I didn't even feel like I existed at that school. And now that I think about it, I bet a lot of you feel the same way. So Well, for the remainder of my speech, this is for the invisible kids. Maybe you never fit in, or maybe you're the smallest kid in the school, or the heaviest, or the weirdest. Maybe you're graduating and you still haven't had your first kiss. By the way, 19, and Geraldine Coco, wherever you are, thank you.
It's great.
You don't have any friends.
He's giving this over Zoom.
Guess what? That's okay. Well, all the popular kids are off doing whatever. I don't know what they were doing because I was never there.
I'll tell you later.
My point is, while you're spending all this time on your own, building computers or practicing your cello, what you're really doing is becoming interesting. And when people finally do notice you, they're going to find someone a lot cooler than they thought. And for those of you who were popular in high school, it's over. Sorry. Thank you. Congratulations.
Hey, I couldn't agree with him more, though. For those of you who were popular in high school, sorry, it's over. Yeah, I mean, right? Your little basketball team and your little, Letterman jacket and your sweats pulled up right below your knees. Go ahead and pull them down because the party is over. None of that matters anymore. Seriously. No more. Okay, next up on my list, we're talking about the best graduation speeches from television. And what's great about TV is that TV is so well written that you can have a flawless graduation speech, and we know that the graduation speeches we hear are not flawless, but these are. The next one comes from Boy Meets World. It was a sitcom that aired in the 90s. This was from 1996, class of 96. This is Sean Hunter giving the graduation speech, who was not the valedictorian, but he was chosen to give the speech. I can't remember why, but he was the slacker, the worst, least likely one to ever give a graduation speech. Probably had the lowest GPA in the school, but he gave a speech, and I really don't put this moment on the list because of Sean's speech. It's because of what happens during the graduation ceremony, during Sean's speech. Corey and Topanga, the couple of the show. This is when Topanga proposes to Corey during graduation, high school seniors. You always would think Corey's going to propose to her, but Topanga proposes to him because she's about to move away for college and she don't want to go without him. So I added this to the list, but Sean's speech is also great too. Take a listen.
Now, high school is over. And just when I'm finally free, I find myself sneaking back into this place and sitting in the hall, thinking about my friends and all the time we spent here. And you, Mr. Feeney. I started thinking about you and how you've always told us what to do without ever telling us what to do. You taught us about life. I was thinking about how much this place has been my home and how many times I screwed up while I was here. How I could have done better. I could have done better. That's what I wrote. That's how I feel. I'm sorry.
Okay, and of course, he sits down, they're getting ready to give the diplomas, and then this happens.
So you're going to say something. Was it important?
You mean that I decided what I want to do with my life?
Yeah, that.
Mr. Feeney said I should go to Yale unless I have a really good reason not to.
Well, there isn't any good reason.
Actually, there is.
Myra Zinkerman.
What?
Ladies and gentlemen, the John Adams High School class of 1998.
Will you marry me?
And I love this scene, and I know radio doesn't give it justice, but the class stands up because he's like, class of 98. I thought it was 96, but it was 98. And they stand up, and she asks him, will you marry me? And then it makes him drop to his, he sits back down. It knocks him off his feet. And they're the only ones sitting down while everybody is celebrating, and they both send out like two sore thumbs in the crowd, and the show goes off for that season finale. Great episode and great television. All right, one more on the list. We're talking about the best graduation speeches that come from television in light of graduation season. This next one is also from a sitcom, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. When Will and Carlton graduated high school, Carlton was the valedictorian, and this was his speech.
Before I came here today, I was afraid, as I'm sure many of you are. It seems these days there's a lot to be afraid of. The world can be a pretty scary place. But how can one person make a difference? Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to take the education I received here and use it to give back to those less fortunate.
Your cousin's really deep, and he doesn't even seem nervous.
Oh, yeah, see, check it out. I gave him a little advice. I told him just to picture somebody that he really admires. And, well, you know, he probably picturing me.
And in closing,
it's showing a picture of Tom Jones.
I'd like to thank my teachers and my classmates for 4 great years, and my family for their love and support.
He's got it on his notes.
And my best friend, someone who stuck beside me and kept me out of trouble, and maybe got me into a little bit of it too. Congratulations.
And there you go, folks. Those are the best graduation speeches that I feel like come from television. Graduation season is upon us. Congratulations to the class of 2026. Everyone graduating this year, a big, exciting time in your life. All right, folks, we still have lots more Off the Cuff with Adam Banks coming at you live after these words. Stick with us. Welcome back, everybody, to Off the Cuff. Adam Banks here with you. Stephen Colbert says goodbye to The Late Show, and The Late Show is officially off the air after 33 years. It ended a couple Thursdays ago, 2 weeks ago today, May 21st. It was the final episode of the franchise's 33-year run. That show started back in the early 90s with David Letterman. It was a show created to directly compete with The Tonight Show, and they gave it to David Letterman because he didn't get The Tonight Show. They gave it to Jay Leno, and CBS said, well, we'll just compete with the Tonight Show and NBC, and we'll give Dave his own show, and he can go head-to-head with Jay Leno. And then it was a great late-night war. We had some of the best late-night television moments thanks to that rival, that competition between Jay Leno, The Tonight Show, and David Letterman's The Late Show. It was awesome. But then, of course, time happens, and then life happens. People get old. People retire. Jay Leno retired. David Letterman retired. The war was over. And now you got Jimmy Fallon doing The Tonight Show. Everybody's real friendly, buddy. All the late night talk shows get along. Back in the day, no such thing. Back in the day, they were never seen in the same room talking. Now, even watching the last episode of The Late Show, all of the late night hosts that are still currently in television were there to send him off. That used to not happen, folks. And that's kind of part, I get it. Everybody get along, hold hands, kiss, whatever. I like a little competition. It makes for better entertainment. Look at wrestling. Wrestling started going downhill when they lost WCW, and they wasn't able to compete against them. But same thing happened here with The Tonight Show and Late Show and just the late night show industry. And now The Late Show, not only is Stephen Colbert saying goodbye to The Late Show, The Late Show is over after 33 years on the air. What television shows, talk shows for that matter, last 33 years, okay? That's a long, long time. It says that Colbert took the show over in September of 2015. That's when David Letterman retired. The entire set of The Late Show, which is set in the Ed Sullivan Theater, is being donated to the Museum of Broadcast Communications in Chicago, which is a city where Stephen Colbert has deep roots. He attended Northwestern and all of that stuff. So Stephen Colbert's Late Show had been number one in the late night program ratings for 9 consecutive seasons. I don't understand that because I never thought Stephen Colbert was good at all. I never thought he was funny. I never thought he was good. Way before Donald Trump ever said anything, before anybody wants to make an accusation. Go back and listen to the tape. That's archived Off the Cuff. When I talked about Stephen Colbert going to The Late Show, I said he wouldn't be any count. So I think that it was a good move for CBS to go ahead and remove Stephen Colbert, but to cancel The Late Show, I felt like it was premature. I do think that there's still life in the late night talk show industry, and I hate the fact that it's fallen apart, but it certainly is. It didn't take long for President Trump to weigh in on the finale before 2 a.m., right after, Stephen Colbert went off the air. Donald Trump posted on his Truth social platform, "Colbert is finally finished at CBS. Amazing that he has lasted so long. No talent, no ratings, no life. He was like a dead person. You could take any person off the street and they would be better than this total jerk. Thank goodness he's finally gone." Man, Trump would never talk about nobody, would he? Hi, I know it kind of mirrors what I said, but not to that extent. Stephen Colbert wasn't talented. I have to agree with Trump on that. I wasn't a fan. I know people liked him. I personally didn't. But he is gone. 62 years old is how old he is. Hosted the show since 2005. That's 11 years during his run. It won an Emmy for Outstanding Talk Series and received a standing ovation from the Emmys crowd when he won. CBS announced last month that Byron Allen's Comics Unleashed will replace Colbert's show in the 11:35 p.m. time slot. So they are not replacing this show with another late night program. It's not in the same format that we're used to, the host sitting behind the desk. So it makes you wonder, folks, instead of now replacing these hosts, are they just, once these hosts retire or they get fired, do they just end the show too? What's going to happen to Jimmy Kimmel's show at the time slot that he has? Probably disappear. Will The Tonight Show be the only one to stick around? I could see that happening, The Tonight Show being the only show that they just keep around, but only time will tell. It's not looking good. I would say the other late night show hosts are shaking in their boots or their little dress shoes or whatever they wear these days. But he had 1,800 episodes as host, and his final show, it ran 17 minutes longer than its usual hour, and it was packed with surprise cameos from people like Jon Stewart, Tig Notaro, Ryan Reynolds, Paul Rudd, Bryan Cranston, Tim Meadows. Paul McCartney actually performed, and what was cool about that was the first, the Ed Sullivan Theater was the first place the Beatles ever performed, so it made sense that McCarthy performed on the same stage that he first debuted on back in 1964, and he was a guest on the show for a long time with David Letterman and also Stephen Colbert. So it was a big finale, no big speech really, so I don't have a clip to play for you with his monologue of him saying goodbye. He said he wanted it to be like a normal show, and he ended the show kind of with this parody of him getting sucked into a black hole and symbolizing that he is just going to disappear and never be seen from again. And The Late Show is going to disappear and never be seen from again. And that's just kind of how the show ended. He went into the black hole and rolled credits. But The Late Show is officially now over, folks. But this seems like a great place to take Off the Cuff's Song of the Week break. And folks, I love a little slow music mixed in with a little fast. How about a little Harry Styles with American Girls? We'll be back after the song. All right, get your favorite religious shirt out, folks, because today's national holiday is National Christian T-Shirt Day. It's a day celebrated on June the 4th and is a day for Christians to unite and express their faith by wearing it on a T-shirt. I don't have many religious T-shirts, and that needs to change. I need to get more, but you see some people wearing them. A lot of churches give them away for free. That's usually where a lot of people pick up these things, church camps and things like that. So if you have one in your drawer hanging up in your closet, go ahead and put that on if you want to express your faith. It's a great way to do that. Wear your favorite Christian T-shirt. You can make your own T-shirt if you don't have one. That's another way to celebrate. I remember back in Bible school, we made hats and shirts. And I remember back in that time, it was 98, 99 when I went, and everybody was making Austin 316 hats because that's when Stone Cold Steve Austin was big. And looking back on it, now I can see how blasphemous that was to do at church camp. I mean, my goodness. And the preacher came in and he gave everybody a stern talking to about those hats. And I just remember how scary and mad this preacher was, but understandable at the time. My goodness, I mean, at a church camp, that's what was happening. So here it says are the best Christian slogans to wear on a T-shirt. Number 1 is Jesus, the way, the truth, the life. I like that. And get straight to the point of how to get to heaven. The next one is I believe, or living for Jesus, or most heroes have a cape, mine has a cross. Another quote to put on a T-shirt is, I'm not lucky, I'm blessed by Jesus. And then of the old-fashioned one, WWJD, what would Jesus do? I know you remember those bracelets, the WWJD bracelets, when people would wear those. Whatever happened to those? Whatever happened to the WWJD? But this is the time to pull those out. It's always a great way to express your faith. People are always looking for ways to do that, and maybe this is your way to do it. It's definitely a great way to do it. Take this as a sign if you've been looking for an extra way to express it. Wear your favorite Christian T-shirt today. All right, folks, we have one more segment to go. We have just a few more minutes left here on Off the Cuff. Stick with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody, to Off the Cuff. Adam Banks here with you. Last segment of the hour. The NBA playoffs are officially underway. The most exciting time to watch NBA basketball. If you still have basketball fever, you are in luck, because this is an exciting time to be a basketball fan. Aside from March Madness, this is the most exciting time for basketball. The World Championship, the NBA Championship, is being played for as we speak. The New York Knicks are trying to get a title against the Spurs. Spurs also looking for another title. Both teams have won an NBA world title before. I'm not a Knicks fan. Never did like the Knicks. I hate how they're now kind of like the new LA, the new celebrity pit stop, where you see all the celebrities, Timothy Chalamet and Kylie Jenner and Ben Stiller and everybody who says everybody now is a Knicks fan. But yes, but you have the Knicks and then you got the Spurs. I hope that the Spurs pull it off. I don't know, man. The Knicks are on a roll. They won game 1. It was last night, and they defeated the Spurs 105-95. I was checking in on the score the whole game. I didn't watch it, but I was checking in on that score, and I was like, okay, Spurs got this one in the bag. It's at San Antonio. They've got it. But, they still got another game to play in. They got 2 games to play in New York, and that place is really tough to play at. So they have to get their wins in when they can at San Antonio. They play next. Game 2 is tomorrow, and it will be at 8:30. It will also be in San Antonio. Game 3 is going to be the game at Madison Square Garden, New York City, Monday, June the 8th, 8:30. Game 4 will also be in New York. That will be June 10th. And then they go back to San Antonio for Game 5. And then if necessary, of course. And then if necessary, Game 6, they got to take it back on the road to Madison Square Garden. And then they'll close it out if necessary with Game 7 on June 19th. That's late up in June, with the Spurs being home for that one, 8:30. NBA playoffs will officially be over no matter what, June 19th, but of course it could end after that. A few Kentucky boys on both teams. You've got Karl Anthony Towns playing for the New York Knicks. You've got De'Aaron Fox playing for the Spurs. Both teams are really looking for, a title. And you got, I believe that Fox plays for the Spurs. I'm pretty sure about that. Maybe I'm wrong before anybody says anything about him not playing for the Spurs. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a huge NBA fan, but this is the time when I like to watch it. I wish I had more to talk about with the NBA. My fault. It kind of slept up on me, and I forgot about the games starting. I knew they were starting, but when they started, Man, I was so tired. I fell asleep, started doing something else, and by the time I looked up, it was over. And seen the score that the Knicks beat the Spurs, and I was shocked by that. So, I don't know, man. Maybe New York's going to get their time. It's looking like that so far. They're 1-0 against the Spurs for their run in the playoffs so far. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that pretty much wraps up another episode of Off the Cuff with Adam Banks. You know what? If you liked what you liked today, you know what that means? That probably means you're going to like our other episodes. And guess what? We archived them all on podcast, Spotify, Apple, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcast. You can follow the show on social media at Off the Cuff with Adam Banks. We're on Facebook, IGX. You can also follow me on the same platforms on social at The Adam Banks. We release new episodes every Thursday from 4 to 5 right here on WLXU 93.9 FM, which means we will be back same time, same place. That's next Thursday from 4 to 5. Ladies and gentlemen, I am the king of radio, Adam Banks, and this is Off the Cuff. I'll catch you down the road.